And we're off to the races. Cold, a cold, rainy day today. Cold, cold, rainy day today. So, staying inside, staying cozy, staying chilly. all of the above. Hope you guys are doing well today. Oh, man. I found a lovely picture I wanted to share with you guys because I feel like it's somewhat encapsulating my views of what's going on in the world today, right? Just, all of these guys are getting together and protecting capital. Really. Like, I don't really see a difference between liberals and conservatives any longer, and it looks like both of those parties are working really hard to empower fascists in the first place. The Soc Dems and the Rad Libs simply wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the existence of communism in the world, because the capitalists would have no reason to negotiate with these people if it wasn't for the existence of communism as an alternative, right? As things start to pull to the left, the capitalists try to manufacture and maintain control as things move to the left. And social democracy seems to be the compromise. Hey Islam, how you doing today, bud? Haven't seen you in a bit. Good to see you. So I'm going to start today off with kind of a silly song, but it's a song that I love anyway, because I actually feel like it's fairly representative of kind of today's culture and what's been going on over the pandemic. So, and written and played by a beautiful and powerful woman. So I hope you guys enjoy. Baby, baby, I shouldn't have let you go. Now you're out of sight, and oh baby, baby. Why am I feeling these lyrics? That's annoying. Now you're out of sight, and show me how you want it to be. Baby, now I need to know now what you got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe. When I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby one more time. Oh pretty baby, the reason I breathe is you. Girl, you got me flying. Oh pretty baby, there's nothing that I wouldn't do. Now you're out of sight, and show me how you want it to be. Tell me now, I need to know now what you got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe. When I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby one more time. Oh, Islam, I keep seeing your TikToks about protests. I wish I could go, but I've been out of work for over a year now thanks to COVID. I'm in the process of moving, so don't have the funds. Hoping I can soon. Yeah, we do what we can, Islam. That's why I don't get too judgy about it. I am putting pressure on people to actually show up because I'm convinced that there are just people who don't come because they're like, on the day, you know, they're like, oh, I don't want to. Oh, it's too much. And so I'm trying to encourage people, but I understand. I completely understand why it's too difficult for many people to come out, right? Like, it makes sense that the most organized and the strongest protest movement right now is coming out of the far right, because the the far right is still well established within the capitalist structure. They have the money. They can afford to do it, right? And this conversation of people not being able to afford coming out and participating in these protests, it's definitely part of the of what's going on today. People can't afford to protest, right? They can't take the day off. Traveling is an expense, right? And more I look at it, the more I think, like, this has to be a big reason why they're trying to get rid of these benefits, and they're trying to force people back into work, because they know that there is a spirit of protest rising. Of course they know. There's one already existent on the far right. And the only thing that has kept the far left from organizing and the far left from getting things together is because of COVID hesitancy, right? And now money. Yeah, I just feel bad always missing them. Who's better off? Used to spend all my free time organizing. I truly miss it. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, bud. And you're going to find it comes in waves, right? You're going to find it comes in waves. That's how life works, right? That's how life works. And what matters more than anything, Islam, what matters more than anything at the moment is solidarity. That's what matters the most. Solidarity is what matters the most. And your desire to have your life sort of reconnected to, so that you can organize and get into protest movement and all that, you'll find that it will come. It will come. But right now you're focusing on yourself, which that's an important piece of the puzzle too. You matter too, bud. You matter too. And your safety and your connection and all of that matters too. So make sure you take care of yourself, because that's the whole point, isn't it? The whole point is that everyone is able to get housing and get shelter and feel safe and all of these kinds of things. That's the whole point. And if you can manage it yourself, perfect. And and honestly, dude, like, I'm gonna keep doing them. Like, I'm gonna keep doing them. This system is completely fraudulent. It's not going to fix itself. The people who have been ruling us are detached psychopaths mainly. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, like, you know, if you miss this one or the next one or the next one or the next one, right? Maybe by the spring, right? Maybe by the spring. Good evening, Major. How you doing? POC, how you doing? Already in with the number. I should let you guys know, if you are $5 donators to my Patreon, you can hit me up in the Discord just with your email. Just hit me with a direct message. Hit me with a direct message with the email that you want me to send my music files to, and I'll send them straight to you. Or you can click on the link in the description, the Bandcamp link, and go to the music and pick up the music you like, if you'd prefer to do that. Yeah, aren't we all, bud? Aren't we all? We're all making it through. Am I a part of an organization? Poof is the name of the organization that I have been organizing with, and they've connected with Socialist Action, another organization that I have been organizing with. But more and more I'm seeing that I am just who I am. I'm the Canadian commie, and I do go and organize with other people and all this, but I want to be who I am. All right. You guys are already guessing numbers. We got a 1, we got a 10. What else we got? Islam, are you in on this? Just guess a number between 1 and 10. The majestic and mysterious David Lynch number draws a ball.
It's October 26th.
We got a 5.
2021.
So we got like 1 in the middle and 1 on both bookends.
10 balls. Each ball has a number.
I'm going with a 6. Feeling
Numbers
like 6 is
1
the day
through
today.
10. Swirl the numbers.
Swirl the numbers. That's my favorite part.
Pick a number.
I love that he does this. Like, what is he even doing this for?
Today's number is 3.
3. Isn't that right? We all just thread right down the middle. All of us just whiff. What can be done? What can you do? Such is the life. Yeah, it does feel like that kind of a day today. Like it's real gloomy and cold and like not a day that you want to be heading outside today. And so I'm not surprised that all of us have a whiff on it. None of us blessed today by the magical David Lynch. Such is the life. So I want to start today just by touching base on a story that I covered yesterday. Former Prime Minister Chrétien said that he had not really heard at all about the residential schools, right? He was kind of in he was in a state of sort of denial about what it was. And somebody stood up and pointed out, he wrote, Chrétien was the Minister of Indian Affairs between 1968 and 1974, under then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. He went on to become Prime Minister and saw the last operational residential school closed while he was in office. In the CTV interview, Chrétien was asked whether he takes some responsibility in light of the continued discoveries of unmarked graves at former residential school sites. His response: "They were there since a long time. We had to manage the problem at that time. We were not informed of any abuse at that time." I mean, and he also ends up writing the white paper. White paper. During his tenure as minister, Chrétien proposed a highly controversial and ultimately withdrawn white paper that was viewed by Indigenous people as assimilationist, as proposed, among other things, to eliminate Indian status. He said he backed away from the proposal after hearing the concerns from Indigenous groups, though he seemed to downplay the concerns over assimilation raised in regards to his white paper proposal. So more and more, as this particular story is unfolding, there's only really two positions that you can land on credibly. One, Chrétien was actually a complete moron the entire time. The entire time he was so mollycoddled and he was so surrounded by surrogates and he was so coddled by corporate power and by all of this that he was just a dumb, clueless idiot. This doesn't really bear out, honestly. Like, Chrétien is a very clever man, very well informed, very well educated. It's very difficult to maintain that sort of position. And the other position is that he's just lying, right? And so here we have like a peak liberal moment, if you ask me. Like, this is peak liberalism, right? Like, just like straight out, the truth is right in front of us. We can see it. Here it is, right? And he's just lying. He's just straight out saying, like, yeah, does he not remember the 60s or the millennial scoop? Yeah. Like, and the idea that there's like no abuse happening in these residential schools, while every single person who gets sent into the residential school system comes out saying that there is abuse. And if he's the Minister of Indian Affairs between 68 and 74, like 6 years, there's absolutely no way. Like, there's absolutely no way. So he's just lying. Like, he's just lying to everybody's face in like in a real blatant sort of a way. Right? And what it leads me to believe is that there are deeper concerns within that era of Liberal Party management that we don't know about, and that we are being sheltered from by the now son of the former Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Right? Jean Chrétien was like the right-hand man of Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Pierre Elliott Trudeau's son is now currently the Prime Minister, while this Truth and Reconciliation Commission is happening, while there's like a big raging concern about all of this, while everything is like going crazy, and we're simply being told, oh, I hadn't heard anything of any abuse during that period of time, and Justin Trudeau is like, oh yeah, I've released all of the documents, when he hasn't, right? It's very believable. This is speculative. This is speculative, but it is extremely believable to me that there are documents, or there is something that has yet to be released, some kind of, not secret per se, but just something that reveals that the liberals were not necessarily that compassionate or caring about this issue as it was happening, right? Like, it's very easy to believe that the same man, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who watches his son stand on a stage wearing blackface singing Deo, will also have a kind of callous or dismissive opinion of other minority groups, right? It's believable to me that there is some kind of documentation that shows that the argument with Pierre Elliott Trudeau is always that, well, he's the one that shut down the residential school system, right? And my response steadily has become, he's the one who secularized the residential school system, right? That they didn't shut the residential school system down and then send all these kids home and like do anything to like reconcile what occurred or any of that. They took these kids and they put them in government-run homes instead, right? Like, there are more kids today in government care than there were in the residential school system. I said system twice. That's fine. And it is extraordinarily believable to me that while the fellow who is actually the Minister of Indian Affairs is writing a white paper in order to assimilate First Nations people and eliminate their Indian status, it's very believable to me that the Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, would have similar attitudes, right? That and that what we are experiencing today is actually an extension or a continuation of the residential school system, perhaps a decline in the brutality of the residential school system, but no less powerful in terms of its institutional power or its ultimate goal, right? And right now, if we want to move forward on this, I keep saying this over and over again, if we want to move forward on this, we have to get rid of Justin Trudeau. There's absolutely no way Justin Trudeau is going to release documentation or release statements made by his father to indict his legacy. It's just not going to happen. And if we want an actual investigation and a proper investigation into this particular issue, we have to get rid of Justin Trudeau. And frankly, we have to get rid of the Liberals generally, right? It's no surprise that I say this. The World Socialist website has released a great document. I'm going to be reading this in full. Because we need strong articulations about what our government is doing. Let me just go through your guys' stuff, and then I'm going to focus on this. Hey, DM, how you doing, bud? Everybody talks about a new world in the morning. Don't they even know tomorrow never comes? Roger Whittaker. You're on a real Roger Whittaker kick, bud. I was in a fight back for a bit, and then the controversies at York faction made me leave. Oy vey. Oh, that mass grave you see there? That's not a mass grave. No more questions. Liberal statements. Yeah. Could I chant Justin Trudeau should be held at the Hague as war criminals? Justin Trudeau is selling weapons to the Saudis. What do you think they're using those weapons for? It's almost like they don't listen to indigenous people, yeah. He does love pipelines, that's for sure. So, yeah, speaking of liberal blood on their hands, right? We're just talking about their relationship with First Nations people. So the World Socialist website has released an article saying Canada's Liberal government eliminates all pandemic support for workers amid country's fourth wave. I have noticed that our media is simply not talking about the fact that these benefits have been cut. They're simply not discussing it. I don't see articles in the National Post, the Globe and Mail. I don't see the mainstream media really chatting about it at all. Certainly not with the strong language that comes out of this article. So I'm going to be reading this in full because I think it's very important that people understand what is happening and the desperately horrible decision that this is. And ultimately, my question has become, where are the NDP? Why are the NDP being silent on this? Where is Jagmeet Singh, who was promising, oh, I'm not going to allow the Liberals to do anything to harm people? Well, guess what? Cutting pandemic support services, cutting benefits, even forget about the pandemic angle, right? Homelessness is a crisis, right? People getting thrown out onto the streets is a crisis. We should have support systems to help people to ensure that these outcomes don't occur at all. And where are the NDP? They're just standing by and watching it happen. So here's an article, World Socialist website, from Roger Jordan. Canada's Liberal government eliminates all pandemic support for workers amid country's fourth wave. Canada's Liberal minority government has effectively eliminated all emergency pandemic financial support for unemployed workers with the aim of enforcing big businesses' drive to increase economic output and profits amid the country's fourth wave of COVID-19 infections and deaths. The more than 800,000 workers who have been receiving the Canada Recovery Benefit, which paid up to $400 a week, to those who are either jobless or with sharply reduced working hours, have had the rug pulled out from under them. Many are now threatened with destitution, even hunger, and homelessness. Flanked by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland told a press conference last Thursday that the CRB would not be further extended. Consequently, last week is the final week for which CRB payments will be made. This callous decision will impact those ineligible for employment insurance, that is, largely younger workers and those who were employed in the so-called gig economy. Freeland announced the CRB would be replaced by a new benefit, but this is nothing more than a sham. The new benefit has been expressly designed to make it all but impossible for jobless or underemployed workers to obtain a single cent in future government assistance, even as the COVID-19 pandemic rages across the country. For her part, Freeland said the goal of the changes is to make government support more narrow, more targeted, and less expensive. The Liberals' Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit will provide a meager $300 per week and only to workers who cannot go to work during a provincially ordered pandemic lockdown. Under these terms, none of the more than 800,000 people receiving CRB benefits last week will be eligible for the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit weeks hence. It gets parliamentary sanction. Nor would they or any worker likely ever be eligible, since the provincial governments have uniformly vowed not to reimpose lockdowns, no matter how high COVID-19 infections and deaths rise. In comments to CTV News, Employment Minister Carla Qualtrough emphasized that workers would only be eligible for the benefit under a complete lockdown. Anyone losing their job due to the tightening of public health restrictions short of a complete lockdown will get nothing. Although Canada continues to record almost 3,000 new infections per day, and almost 2,000 people have died of COVID since September 1st, governments across the country are once again rushing to remove any and all public health restrictions as they double down on the ruling class homicidal live with the virus strategy. Yesterday, John Horgan's trade union-backed New Democratic Party government in BC and Doug Ford's hard-right Conservative government in Ontario lifted virtually all capacity restrictions in indoor settings. In announcing its latest rollback of COVID restrictions, the Ontario government stressed its aims to continue aggressively removing public health measures, with all of them, including mask mandates, ended by March 2022. Ford's plans to abolish all COVID restrictions seem to complement what is occurring federally, i.e., both underpin the corporate drive to churn out bigger profits. Observed an Ottawa Citizen editorial Saturday. Now that the federal government is ending COVID relief programs such as the Canada Recovery Benefit, the citizen continued, it is possible more people who depend on such subsidies will seek work. As Ontario loosens restrictions on small business, demand for employees will rise. All of this, presumably, will be good for the economy. The criminal character of the ruling elite's drive to deprive workers of any financial support and to force them to accept dangerous, low-paid jobs where they will face a high risk of infecting themselves and their loved ones is underscored by the ongoing progression of the pandemic. One day prior to Freeland's announcement, Saskatchewan's Chief Medical Health Officer, Dr. Saqib Shahab, broke down in tears as he informed the province's residents that his agency's modeling shows that the number of intensive care patients infected with COVID-19 could more than double by the new year. Saskatchewan is already sending patients to Ontario due to a lack of healthcare staff and beds. In neighboring Alberta, where some hospitals were forced to deny care to patients deemed least likely to survive over recent weeks, the COVID-19 fatality rate is 3 times higher than for the rest of Canada. According to Worldometers, 765 people are currently in critical condition across the country, and the death toll reached 28,750 Monday. Corporate Canada and its political representatives are positively reveling in this mass death, applauding the Liberal government for scrapping the last vestiges of financial support for workers. Big business had long complained that the CRB was overly generous and blamed it for the staff shortages, especially in the low-wage restaurant, hospitality, and retail sectors. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce declared Freeland's announcement the fair thing to do for business. It praised the fact that while financial support for workers were effectively removed, companies that hire new employees can continue to receive a subsidy worth 50% of their salary costs until May 2022. The official opposition Conservatives, who have long echoed business complaints about the CRB, were likewise full of praise. The Prime Minister followed party leader Erin O'Toole's fiscal plan and announced that the CRB would be ending, said Tory finance critic Ed Fast, before going on to demand that Trudeau halt his government's out-of-control spending. The reality is that the big business Liberals, together with their allies in the trade unions and NDP, have been working throughout the pandemic to protect the interests of big business at the expense of the working class. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the CRB's predecessor, extended a pittance of $500 per week to workers laid off following the outbreak of the pandemic. This program, touted as generous by NDP leader Jagmeet Singh and Canadian Labour Congress head Hassan Yousaf, was a drop in the bucket compared to the more than $650 billion forked over to the banks and big business by the Trudeau Liberal government in March 2020. This unprecedented bailout of Canada's financial oligarchy led to the accumulation of fabulous quantities of wealth, with the country's super-rich billionaires becoming $78 billion richer during the pandemic's first year. Last fall, the Trudeau government took the first step in scrapping financial support for workers by replacing the CERB with the CRB. Initially, the governments planned to accompany this change by slashing benefit payments from the already inadequate $500 per week to just $400. However, faced with the rapidly accelerating second wave of the pandemic, which was the product of the reopening of the economy and schools pursued by all provincial governments and overseen by Trudeau, the Liberals backtracked and maintained the $500 a week payments until the spring. In their 2021 budget, they cut CRB payments to $400 per week, a move which secured the needed majority parliamentary support thanks to the votes of the New Democrats. No such fiscal prudence, to use Freeland's corporate jargon, is exercised when dealing with Canada's wealthy elite. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which also expired last weekend, was a massive corporate slush fund that paid for bumper shareholder payouts and lavish executive salaries at many of the country's leading businesses. There is also nothing new in Trudeau's partnership with hard-right provincial governments in implementing the ruling elite's murderous open economy/open schools policy. In its September 2020 throne speech, which passed with NDP support, the Trudeau government called for any future anti-COVID lockdowns to be adopted at the local level and on a short-term basis. This gave the likes of Quebec's herd immunity promoting Premier François Legault and Alberta Premier Jason Kenney, who was describing COVID-19 as a flu as late as June 2020, a free hand to pursue a policy of mass infection and death. In early July 2021, when Kenney declared that Alberta was open for summer and eliminated almost all public health measures, Trudeau and his Liberal government said and did nothing. Over 2 months later, when Alberta's ICUs were already full to the brim with seriously ill patients, the Prime Minister cynically seized on Kenney's reckless reopening strategy to attack the federal Conservatives in the final days of the federal election campaign. The scraping of what little remained in the way of financial support for Canadian workers marks a further stage in the intimate collaboration between all Canada's parliamentary parties in enforcing the interests of the ruling elite during the pandemic. It and the recent joint U.S.-Canadian naval provocation against China in the Taiwan Strait provide a foretaste of how ruthless the incoming Liberal minority government will be in attacking the rights and living standards of working people and in pursuing an aggressive foreign policy aimed at upholding the global interests of Canadian imperialism. Today, Trudeau is to announce the cabinet for his third term in office. Business lobby groups and media commentators have been clamoring for months about the need to make Canada more competitive and ready to take advantage of the economic recovery. Code words for forcing workers to accept brutal exploitation, low wages, and next to no benefits and job protections. To make clear that he supports this agenda, Trudeau promptly announced after last month's election that Freeland, a darling of the financial and corporate elite for her hawkish fiscal policies and virulent anti-Russia stance, will remain Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. The aggressive class war program of big business and all its political representatives from Trudeau and Ford to Legault and Horgan is increasingly meeting with resistance from the working class. Like their counterparts in the United States, where a massive strike wave among manufacturing, healthcare, and other workers is being fueled by decades of concession contracts and the corporate oligarchy's prioritization of profits over human lives during the pandemic, workers across Canada have waged a series of militant strikes in recent months for improvements in wages and conditions. The mass protest which swept Alberta in opposition to the Kenney government's dismantling of public health measures also revealed the broad-based hostility to the ruling elite's strategy of living with the virus. The task now is to develop this widespread opposition into an industrial and political working class counteroffensive, to overturn the ruling class's profit before lives pandemic policy, oppose rearmament and war, and fight for workers' power. A pivotal first step in this fight is the mobilization of the working class to enforce an immediate shutdown of all non-essential business activity and in-class learning with full financial compensation for all workers, as part a strategy to eliminate COVID-19 in Canada and internationally. And what's worth bringing up, and I was thinking about it the entire time I was reading this, cutting the benefits for workers does not suddenly mean they run off into these jobs. Cutting the benefits for the workers does not suddenly mean economic growth occurs. We've seen it in the United States. We have done the tests throughout the United States already where they have cut benefits for workers. Did it improve their economy? No, it tanked their economy. And why? Because people who have no money cannot spend money. And going to jobs that do not pay for basic things like rent and food also does not create economic stimulus. All you're doing if you go and get a job that doesn't even pay your rent is siphoning money into the hands of a landlord class, which is increasingly a billionaire class, that takes its wealth and ships it offshore. Cutting benefits for workers kills your economy. We have the evidence. We have the proof. And now the Liberal Party is taking a look at the evidence, shrugging and saying, oh well, we'll do it anyway. We are ruled by a capitalist death cult. They do not care that the result of this is going to be a spike in homelessness. Quite the opposite. I think it gives them joy to render workers homeless. I think it gives them joy to kill people with COVID-19. That is the reason they want COVID-19 to stay in Canada. That is the reason they want COVID-19 to stay in Canada. Because it is an effective way to kill people without actually going out and killing them. The Liberal government, the Conservative government, and increasingly the NDP are revealing that they do not care about working people in Canada. That they will happily kill you if it means more wealth for corporate power. And increasingly we're seeing that the way that the government is actually doing this is just by giving them the money. Forget about even this process of labor exploitation. Forget about any of that. They're literally just going to print the money and give it to corporate power so that they can offshore it the way that they do and the way that they have. And we keep voting for this. Why? Are we stupid? Are we just cruel? Are we malicious? The answer seems to be yes. We can 100% do better than this. And at this stage in the game, outside of striking, quitting your job, protesting, and sabotage, which are the 4 tools that we, the working class, should be using, I'll restate it. You should quit your job. If you cannot, you should be organizing strikes. If you cannot, you should be sabotaging your workplace. And you should be protesting. If you are not doing any of these things, you are a gullible rube who is happy with their exploitation and being discarded by the Conservative, Liberal, and now NDP alliance. Vote communist. Vote communist. If you cannot vote communist because there isn't a communist, write communist in. We have been abandoned. There's no other word to use for it. We are being abandoned by a death cult that is happy to watch us die. We have to revolt. We have no other alternative. If you've made it to this point, like, share, and subscribe. Send this around. Let people know I exist. I have Patreons down below. You can find my music, all that kind of stuff. And hey, come into the live stream, right? There's lots of people who are here in the live stream in solidarity with one another, where we're all coming together and we're crying about this. We are being abandoned by our rulers as our empire declines. Do you talk to anybody about it? How often do you talk to anybody about the reality of what that is? Come on in here and talk to me. Good luck. We're going to need it. That's the clip. What have you guys been chatting about? Hey, it's nice being abandoned, eh? Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice that like all of our rulers are just completely going to abandon us? Like and like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh and all these guys are just going to retreat into their like little houses and their like halls of like their gated communities and all this, while we just suffer and die. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Yeah, JT is about to have a lot of blood on his hands, more so than ever before, for sure. That's why they wanted the majority. They knew that they were going to do this. Like, they knew that they were going into this, and they didn't want to have to negotiate with anybody about it. They just wanted to do it. They just wanted to do it. Counting down the days until the next Justin liberal scandal comes about. Are you kidding me? This is like the biggest scandal in Canada in the last 50 years, and nobody's talking about it. We're literally abandoning people into the streets. Like, we're literally throwing upwards of 1 million people into the streets. Why? For what? For what? For some, like, pale neoliberal idea of how an economic system should work? Like, neoliberalism isn't an economic system. It's a religious ideology. And it looks like the liberals have drunk the Kool-Aid, right? That creating money that you give to people that they then spend, right, which is then taxed and then returns to the government, that's an economy, right? Printing money, giving it to people so they offshore it and it's never taxed and it never comes back into the economy ever again, that's not an economy, right? That's an extraction, which is what the liberal government is 100% facilitating. It is facilitating completely an extraction from the Canadian people into the nation of Richistan, where the wealthy oligarchs live and where their owners live. That is what is happening. And this is an enormous scandal. And it's very, very telling that no one is talking about it. Everyone's just kind of shrugging and being like, oh, well, it was an inevitability and all this kind of shit. Fuck that. Like, fuck that to death. People should have food and people should have shelter, and it should be built into our charter. It's very, very clear. Very, very clear. And I am now of the opinion that if you are voting for conservatives or liberals, and yes, now even NDP, I treat you like a Nazi. You're just voting for the Nazi party. And I have no problem saying that out loud. You are abandoning people into the streets amidst a pandemic that will certainly kill more. Like, I don't know what needs to be said to you any longer. To find your heart, to find your soul, to find your ability to have compassion, right? There are psychopaths in the discourse. It's become extremely obvious. The bourgeois silence their media dogs because they know how pissed people are about this and they don't want to face the discussion. That's the integrity of our mainstream journalism. We don't have journalism here in Canada. There's no such thing as journalism in Canada anymore. I'm the closest you're going to find to a journalist. And I wouldn't consider myself a journalist. Like, we don't have journalists. We have stenographers. That's what we have. We have people who take cue cards from corporate power or take cue cards from Justin Trudeau's office and they read them uncritically, right? Without even questioning, without even concern, any of that kind of stuff. That's what we have. If you are working in journalism, you are a propagandist, period. Full stop, without exception. You're not there to actually tell stories. You're not there to do research. You're not there to inform anybody of anything. Your job is to protect corporate power. That's what journalists are in Canada. Full stop, no exception. Looking at the CRB groups on Facebook, it's heartbreaking how many people are affected by this. Yep, there's going to be a huge spike in homelessness. It's going to be huge. I voted NDP as I always do in the past election, and I'm pretty upset that Jagmeet has done nothing about this, especially after he made a statement saying he wouldn't go along with anything that's going to hurt Canadians. I guess Jagmeet doesn't consider the poor Canadians, right? So he's just like in lockstep with the white supremacist, right? As far as I'm concerned. Like, where's the NDP? Where's the NDP in any of this, right? Like, for real. Like, where's the NDP whatsoever, right? Looks like they're just totally fine with abandoning large segments of the population. I guess Jagmeet got a big enough bribe, right? I guess they pointed at a job that he could get after he's out of office and said, like, yeah, we'll give you that. It'll be some cushy, like, six-figure thing, right? And Jagmeet's just going to go along with it. That as far as I'm concerned, he's just as bad as Aaron O'Toole. He's just as bad as Justin Trudeau, as far as I'm concerned. No more of this vote for NDP stuff. I was talking that way in the last election. After this, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're voting NDP, as far as I'm concerned, you're just as bad as the Nazis. This is abandonment. This is abandonment. There's no other word for it. Yeah, Jagmeet has been dead silent since the election. Not a peep about the CRB cut. Yeah. Further proof we need a dictatorship of the proletariat. Absolutely. Absolutely. Vote conservative. Organize along these lines. Abandon these parties. They've already abandoned us, right? They've already abandoned us. So, yeah, they need to stop calling my grandfather a Nazi. Well, maybe your grandfather shouldn't have been hoarding grain and collaborating with the Nazis. Well, and then even that, like, Chrystia Freeland has armed and trained Nazi groups throughout Ukraine, right? Like, Chrystia Freeland is a Nazi collaborator. Period. There's nothing else to call her. There's no other language to use. There's no way to gussy it up. She has armed and trained Nazi groups in the Ukraine. What do you need? Like, what do you need? If I give weapons and military training to Nazi groups, I am a Nazi collaborator. Full stop. That's our deputy prime minister, right? I can't express to you guys how serious this is. Like, I cannot express to you how serious this is. Right? We have a Nazi collaborator is going to be the next liberal leader in this country, who is actively abandoning people amidst a pandemic, right? Under this guise of like, oh, they should just get jobs. But guess who's in control of all of the jobs? Oh, it's a psychopath class who's actively attempting to destroy us, right? Stop voting for these people. You're voting for Nazis. Like, you're voting for Nazis. I don't know what to tell you anymore. Yeah, with economic aim to once again impose slave labor wages with the threat of death and starvation for those refusing serfdom. Exactly. And that's their stated agenda. They've said this shit out loud. Like, I don't know what you need anymore. Fair for business, slavery for humanity. Yeah, exactly. That's what fair for business means, right? Just wait until the more contagious Delta Plus variant wreaks havoc in North America. Yeah. Like, generous? You need to have made 5,000 in 2019 to qualify. Yeah. It's already here in North America. Just give it a few weeks. Well, especially as we lift all of these restrictions, right? Especially as we're just like, oh yeah, everything's fine, door-to-door. I can't work without my medication. I can't afford my medication because I don't have a job. Cutting CRB isn't going to make me get a job when I can't function. Yeah. No, but they don't care, right? The liberal platform is now just die. That's the liberal platform. Just die. To all that got cut off from CRB and EI, good luck finding a job that pays a livable wage. Yep. I mean, the jobs already weren't paying wages, right? They already weren't paying rent. Already. Right? Before the pandemic. They already weren't paying for food and shelter. That was already what was happening. Right? What has something changed magically? Oh no, the rents actually shot up. Right? Rents actually have shot up. Housing prices are out of control. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. Right? And we're just going to cut supports for 1 million people and just say to them, yeah, just go get jobs. Just go get jobs. Oh, no, we're not going to pay you a wage that actually pays the rent. Right? No, we're not going to do any of that. Right? Like this is going to be incredibly dislocating for huge sections of the populace, and it's going to have profound effects on what happens in Canada. Like, you're not going to be able to find workers because the wages that you're paying are not actually paying the rent. People won't be able to live in the area. Like, yeah, I expect homelessness and suicides to skyrocket in biblical proportions like never before. Yeah, because we're being abandoned, and this is a strategy of abandonment. They're abandoning us on purpose. They're abandoning us because they know that if we die, right, we can't fight back, and they just want us to go off and die silently. That's what's happening, and I genuinely am of the opinion now. Like, if I found out that you voted Liberal in the last election, I will spit on you. Period. I will spit on you. Unless it's followed up with an apology. There was a statement from the U.S. White House that the economy will recover by December when U.S. citizens run out of savings. Like, they just said it out loud. Exactly. Bumbleguppy. Exactly. Like, it starved them out. It's what Thatcher did to the miners, remember? Right? Like, just starve them out. And then they'll accept the shitty wages that don't pay the rent. Right? Like, these people are psychopaths. They're not capable of reason. They're not capable of being rational. And not only are they psychopaths, they're psychopaths carrying around a religious ideology that they think is economics, right? Like, let's massively increase the suffering of the populace so that we can jerk off about it, right? And then when they don't go get the jobs that don't pay the rent, we can call them lazy and then jerk off about that too, right? These people are psychopaths. There's no other explanation. Why do this? Why do this? Right? Like, creating benefits for people actually stimulates economic growth. It actually creates economic growth. We know this because of the childcare benefit. Right? We know this. If you give people money, they spend it, and that stimulates economic growth. If you give money to rich people, they take it and throw it in offshore accounts, and that kills your economy. We know that this is the truth. And so we have to conclude that the Liberals, the NDP, and the Conservatives are disinterested in creating a Canadian economy. That we are in a period of extraction. That's what's happening now. And all of this, just get to work and work jobs that don't pay your rent, is just a way to keep the populace busy so that they cannot organize against this program of extraction. That is what is happening. If you think anything else, you are stupid. Like, if I walked up to you and started beating you over the head, and you said, hey, stop beating me over the head, and I said, I'm not beating you over the head, would you go, oh, okay? Like, that's the level of stupidity that we're looking at now. And the stupidest ones are the people who are educated. The people who are quote-unquote educated, who have gone and gotten their, like, PhD degrees, because they're so stupid, but it requires, like, a deprogramming of the stupidity, right? Their stupidity is so well enforced and so built into them now that to actually get them to not be stupid anymore is harder than just going up to somebody who's uneducated and being like, hey, this is what's going on, right? This is why I say the PPC is actually better than the Conservatives and the Liberals and now the NDP. Because at least they're walking around saying something's gone wrong, right? At least they're not actively planning to do this kind of stuff to us. Like, sure, I can disagree with the PPC along policy lines and all that kind of stuff. Sure. But at least they're walking around saying something's gone wrong. Like, no wonder the PPC is growing in strength. The communists should be growing in strength as well. Like, this is an international embarrassment, what we're doing, right? Historians will look back on this decision as one of the worst decisions in the history of Canada. It's flagrant exploitation and extraction. It's flagrant. And we're just going to take it. We're just going to take it. Unbelievable. When do they honestly think the world will be like when we're all dead and all that's left is the parasitic bourgeois class? Yeah, who's going to do their work for them? Right? That's the thing. Like, if they kill us off and chase us away and don't have the money and won't pay the money, right? And then they'll turn around and complain that, oh, I can't, you can't find good work these days. You can't find good serfs these days, right? Like, get fucked across the board. It's like the opposite of a plan. Like, is there a word for the opposite of the word plan? Like chaos, right? Like that's their whole shtick, right? The free market is essentially just chaos death knights saying, "Let chaos reign," right? That's the whole. They've always said this: "Let chaos reign," right? Let the free market decide. Just. Yeah, the wealthiest people in the room will take over, and they'll do things to help people, right? If you feel hopeless in life, just make sure to outlive them so you can spit on their graves. That's pretty brutal, Mocked. I love it. Methinks they don't care about the economy. Oh, yeah. Well, and just take a look at how they talk about the economy, right? When they say the economy, what they actually are saying, what they actually mean is the stock market. Right? That's what they care about, right? Stock market's not the economy, right? People are the economy. If you're not talking about the lived experience of the average person, you are not talking about the economy. And these guys don't care about that at all. They care about the stock market. That's what they care about. And the great irony, of course, is that they're pillaring the stock market. Like, one of the final nails in the coffin of this capitalist death cult will be when the stock market collapses yet again, right? Which is 100% going to happen. The stock market is going to have another collapse right down to the ground. It's going to create like a worldwide fiasco yet again, like it did with the housing market again, right? Because the capitalist system is completely fraudulent, bereft of any sort of intellectual thinking or rational thought whatsoever. The paradoxes within the system tear it down and tear it apart. And when that happens, nations that have brains in their heads will start gravitating towards the nations that are actually stable. Right? That there are nations in the world that are actually stable and attempting to continue to stabilize themselves. Why don't we try to do that? Oh, that doesn't make 5 guys extremely rich. Like, will they start saying get 3 or 4 jobs one day? Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what they're already saying, right? The get a job crowd, which, like, get a job is essentially saying go fuck yourself at this point. That if somebody is saying get a job, right? They are saying go fuck yourself. That's what they are saying. Because if you say back to them, I have 2 jobs, right? What's their response to that? Get a better job. Like, they're just saying go fuck yourselves. And it's time that we respond back like that. Like, if somebody says get a job, say, hey, fuck you too, buddy. Go fuck yourself. Because that's what they're saying to you. Like, that's what they're saying. And if they genuinely believe it, then they're fucking psychopaths, right? Like, don't tolerate these assholes anymore because they're actively working to abandon you. That it's all propaganda. It's all grifting. They're fucking psychopaths who are just trying to get you to be quiet and feel guilty, right? They're gaslighting you. When they say get a job, they're gaslighting you, right? Tell them to get fucked and then take a pipe and beat them over the head with it. I've noticed the word tanky is now used to describe anyone on the left that wants to wield realistic power instead of polite letters to elected officials. And it's pejorative, for fuck's sakes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've heard of the tanky takeover, right? And it's like you go to these places and you take a look, and they're not really communists. They're just people who understand that the system has fallen apart, right? They're just people who understand that, oh, the system doesn't work. And then they're starting to like offer very simple, this is my journey to communism. They're starting to offer very simple, straightforward solutions that are obvious, that a child could figure out, right? Very, very easy, connected to reality solutions. And people are like, this is communism, the way they always do. The way they always do. So, like, we're abandoning huge sections of the populace. And if you're so stupid that you're willing to accept that, then once you get abandoned too, don't fucking act surprised about it. Because you're going to be abandoned too. That the purpose of the capitalist death cult is to enrich 500 people. And then have maybe a couple of thousand people who are like pretty well off. Because that's all they care about and that's all they need. Right? They don't give a shit about you. They don't care at all. Right? So you're going to have hundreds of millions of people who are living in a state of total abandonment. Complete abandonment. Because of the result of this. Like, what do you think your society is going to look like? Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think you're going to be living in a happy place? In the meantime, the liberal mainstream media is pushing their labor shortage agenda into the masses, and they drink it up like Kool-Aid. Yeah, I mean, if you're stupid enough to believe that it's a labor shortage instead of a strategy by corporate power, like, obviously corporations are using the labor shortage narrative in order to convince gullible rubes, which is like 95% of the populace, near as I can tell, that they're just not hiring. Right? We know they're not hiring, right? So they're just using it as a way to maintain some veneer of credibility. And so that the populace will keep going to their establishments and won't recognize that they're being grifted yet again, right? When we're all dead, they're going to start going after when we're all dead, then they'll start going after the millionaire. Well, and that's actually true. They will, right? Like, they'll kill off who they need to kill off. They'll impoverish the middle class completely, right? And it keeps siphoning. It keeps siphoning. There can be only one. That is what the goal is. Your totalitarian tanky, my perfect example of socialism is Norway, a country with a literal monarchy. Yeah, you don't get to call yourself a socialist and hate on all existing attempts at it. Socialism at the same time. Yeah, like, I love it when white chauvinist Westerners, like literal fascists, try to critique attempts at socialist nations in Asia. Like, and then you ask them, like, what's the name of the leader? And they don't fucking know. Right? Like, ask some of these guys, who's the leader of Laos right now? Like, who's the leader of Burma? Right? Like, I know that you know Xi Jinping, right? Who's his second in command? Like, these guys have no fucking idea what they're talking about. And yet, we're supposed to venerate their opinions about, like, they're literally armchair quarterbacks while not watching the game. Like, that's literally what they're doing. And it's embarrassing to see. Like, if they were approaching, like, China or Russia with, like, oh, hey, what's going on there? And let's find out more about what's going on there. And actually attempting to inform people about what's going on. That would have some level of credibility. But, like, standing up and pretend... And the only reason why a socialism like Norway, right? The democratic socialism of Norway or Finland or any of these places... The only reason they exist is because of the existence of communism, right? Because the narrative is, hey, go along with us with this democratic socialism thing, or we can just overthrow you, right? And so the capitalists go, oh, okay, then we'll go along with it because there's a threat of revolution. But if you don't have actual countries attempting to work forward on this communist model, then they're not going to do it, right? Why would they? Take a look at what's going on in America. Take a look at what's going on in Canada, where we don't have any, like, legitimate communist models. There's no legitimate protest movement actually threatening revolution, right? Which incidentally, November 2nd, 2 p.m., 6 Tetton Hall Road, come to Doug Ford's house. Protest your abandonment. And we are in a phase, like, and it's going to get so much more obvious than this. Like, it's going to get so much more obvious. Like, the obviousness of this is going to get, like, people are going to be smacked in the face by it. You're literally going to see children homeless on the streets. Like, that's literally what's going to happen. And, like, you've got to be the worst kind of psychopath to look at that and think, like, whoa, they should just get a job. Like, shut the fuck up. The difference between credibility and believably is how you get those clicks. Yeah, exactly. Reform isn't enough at this point, and I refuse to associate with anyone who still thinks reform will be enough. Yeah, like, the system is broken. It's broken to the ground, and we should be spending a lot of time asking ourselves how we got to this point, right? How we got to this point where we were willing to abandon even our own children. Like, this is a major question that we should absolutely be asking ourselves. Like, and that we should be asking the boomers. Like, that's the question that you should, like, if you ever encounter one of these boomers who are just like scoffy, I just think the only question worth asking these guys is, so, like, how did you get to the point where you thought abandoning your own children was a good idea? Because they are. Like, that's really obvious. Like, it's really obvious that that's what they're doing. Like, why do you think abandoning your children is a good idea? That's the question. Like, and if they're like, oh, you're assuming in the question, I'm like, no, I'm stating what's obviously the truth, and I'm asking you why you're doing it. Like, if I walked up to a guy and he was beating someone in the face, he was like punching someone in the face, and I asked, hey, why are you punching that guy in the face? And he said, oh, you're assuming in the question. You're assuming my evil intent in the question. Be like, no, dude, you're punching that guy in the face. Like, I see that you're doing it. Like, you're obviously doing it. And much in the same way, like, why are the boomers abandoning their own children? Like, why are they doing it? The difference between capitalists and workers is whether the system is broken or working as intended. I mean, the exploitation of the workers is built into the capitalist model. Like, it's supposed to work that way. So it's like, these outcomes are predictable, right? Like, go read Marx. Go read Marx. Like, all of this is predictable. Like, he predicted all of this. He witnessed all of this. He saw all of this, and he iterated all of it to you, right? Like, this is the reason I call myself a communist, because I double down with the guys who are right. And, like, everything we're experiencing now is predictive. Like, we know it happens this way, and we know what the next level of it is. Like, we know what occurs next. Like, there's no mysteries here. Like, the people who are walking around being like, oh, I'm so confused. Like, why? It's predictable. Not only is it predictable, right? Like, it's obvious. You just need to stop thinking these capitalists have consciences. And you got to stop thinking that we're all in this together. Like, no, we're not. Like, we fucking are not. There are people in this conversation who are psychopaths who want to kill you. It's obvious. They've stated it. Like, I don't know what to tell you any longer. Like, they want to escape to Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island, right? Have sex with little girls. Like, this is how this is going to be their economy. Like, this is how they're going to erect this. They're going to live in, like, areas that we can't get to, right? They're going to live in islands and, like, bunkers and, like, mountain regions and all this kind of stuff, right? They're going to erect, like, pedophile sex slave rings, and their interaction with us will only be to go in and pick up sex slaves, like, and to extract food out of us. Like, that's really what they're doing. Like, and how do I know? Because I have eyes and I see and I look and I see that that's what they're doing. Like, and they're not even pretending like something else is going on anymore. Like, Go take a look at the interview Bill Gates gave about his journeys to Jeffrey Epstein's sex island. He's obviously lying. Like, he's not even trying not to lie. He's just like, like, they don't care. They know nothing's going to happen to them. Right? Like, our system is corrupted to the ground. We might as well be ruled by demons. Like, I mean, I think the difference between being ruled by actual demons and these psychopaths is that the demons would be smart enough to know not to destroy the system, right? That they would know how to perpetuate the system continuously. Whereas these guys are going to break the whole thing apart and abandon their own children to it. Like, it's brutal what we're doing. Like, it's brutal what we're doing. Let's play a song. Let's play a song. I'm going to play you guys one that I don't play live very often. This is called Psychopath Nation. So, I wonder what the theme is. Let's see. Out for dollar bills, kill your children for a few cheap thrills. Got a problem? Well, that's too bad. You're too tired to see you've been had. Work or starve while we drop bombs. No such thing as right or wrong. Call you lazy while you work to death. You gotta earn yourself a moment of rest. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. Burn those corpses so you can speed. Buy that garbage you don't need. Play the victim while you lose your grip. Why won't they work in the apocalypse and retreat into your stupid lies? Act confused while your children cry. Promise change but act the same. Gaslight, deflect and take no blame. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, I won't work for a psychopath nation. And as we collapse in the devil's lap, as we watch the world burn to ash, you'll whine like bitches on your way to the grave. Why won't those serfs just behave? And you're fucking vampires, demons and ghouls. We're done with being treated like fools. The curse is lifted, we're free from your spell. Keep on crying while you burn in hell. 'Cause we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. No, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Fucking psychopath nation, dude. Like, we're literally selling weapons to a country that's enacting a genocide while pointing at China and being like, no, they're doing a genocide. Like, get fucked. Get fucked completely. This whole fucking thing is absurd and ridiculous, and it's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to me to watch people still go along with it. Like we're like literally watching a dude beat our wives. Like, there's just a guy beating up our wives and daughters and just beating them up, and we're just like, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, that's how gulled we are. Just got a fundraiser email from NDP, took a screenshot, sent it out on Twitter calling out the NDP. Yeah, fuck those guys. Fuck those guys. They're just as bad. Like, fuck them. Abandon them too. Fucking worthless. Like, literally, don't go along with it. It's very simple not to. Like, fucking embarrassing. Too many rubes and simps that vote liberal and conservative to actually initiate a change from the inside out via massive protests at politicians' homes and offices. Yeah, along with highway blockades and strikes. Absolutely. Like, absolutely. Like, I genuinely do not understand. Like, the people who are voting conservative, like, those people are just genuinely evil. Like, there's no other language to use for them. They want to destroy the world. Like, it's very clear that that's their agenda. Ugh. All right. Here's my mood, guys. Here's my mood. No use pretending we'll go back to before. Psychopath nations shatter hard upon the floor. Dumb politicians trick us all with stupid grins. They'll run for cover while we pay for their sins. I'm sad. Everybody let us down. I'm sad. We burn the whole world down. Just keep on working, pay no attention to the smoke. Just keep on working, nobody cares if you're still broke. Just keep on working, come on, what is wrong with you? Just keep on working, try not to think about the truth. I'm sad. We burn the whole world down. I'm sad. Everybody let us down. And God has no mercy for those who kill themselves. Laughs at us loudly as we build a perfect hell. Tear down the gardens replaced with empty stone. Run to your bunkers filled with our blood and bones. I'm sad. Everybody let us down. I'm sad. We burn the whole world down. There's no forgiveness for us at all. 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 It's the inaction that's the most confusing part to me. It's the inaction that's the most confusing part to me. Like, I understand why the politicians are falling into inaction. I understand why, like, the corporate power structure is falling into inaction. Like, I understand all of that. I do not understand why the people are not acting. I do not understand the inaction that exists within the populace. It's beyond apathy. It's beyond apathy. That it used to be called apathy. Now I genuinely think that our society has gone full-blown suicidal. I think that we have lost the will to live as a people. That we are not interested in fighting. We are not interested in standing up and struggling back as a people. That the call to the void is what is overwhelming our senses. And there's enough people, especially in the millennials, especially within the millennials I see, who are just saying fuck it and waiting for death. Like that meme that you see, right? My retirement plan is to die in the climate wars. That's an expression of self-annihilation. All of the apocalyptic, like the Maze Runner and the Hunger Games and all this shit, where the world is going to be blown up. It's in all our literature, it's in all our media, it's in everything. The expectation that everything is just going to blow up. And we're not even going to bother fighting back. We're not even going to bother fighting back. Thank you for your compliments, by the way. Thank you so much. Thank you, Major. Thank you, DM. Thank you, Damn Boxes. Good to see you, Damn Boxes. Thank you for your compliments. I appreciate it. Perhaps it would take $5 per liter gasoline for people to wake up. No, they'll just complain. That's it. They'll just complain into their cups, right? Like, and the people who are most affected by something like $5 per liter gasoline, like, they're not gonna take a revolutionary position, right? They're gonna be reformist. Yeah. Hi, Amanda. How you doing? We should all be so pissed off right now. So many gave up already. Yeah. I think that's right. Chat keeps disconnecting and reconnecting, by the way, guys, just so you know. I don't know if that's showing up for you, but chat keeps disconnecting and reconnecting. I don't know why. Fight back. What are you, some kind of tanky? Did you hear about American Service Members Protection Act? Nicknamed the Hague Invasion Act? What the fuck? Like, American Service Members Protection Act prohibits U.S. cooperation with the International Criminal Court. That's hilarious. Yeah, of course. No, I kind of always assumed that they had done something like this, right? That like they just have prohibited, they just won't work. Like, there's a reason why the Hague has called the United States a terrorist state, right? There's a reason they've done that. Like, imagine erecting an international court system and then saying that you're not going to cooperate with that international court system. Like, America is a rogue state, and it's just going to be brutal. Like, that's the thing that I think I'm really come to terms with, right? Is like, Chris Hedges said that there's always like a class of people who don't understand the revolutionary nature or what is happening to their country until they're literally being attacked by it. That they're so detached and they're so clueless and they're so out of touch with what is going on with their society that it isn't until they're literally being shot or rounded up that they're like, wait, what? Is there any law that the U.S. observes at this point? Like, the U.S. doesn't really care about law. Like, it doesn't follow law. Like, that's what was so funny in like the post investigation over torture, right? Like, what was the name of there was a movie that got released that Adam Driver was in, and he played the fellow who was investigating the CIA in regards to their torture claim, right? And it was very eye-opening and it was all this kind of stuff. But I still think that movie was CIA propaganda because it still maintained the illusion that America cares about law at all, right? They still kept putting forward the idea that like, oh, torture is legal because of X and because of Y, right? And it really went through to sort of this unfolding like, oh, torture doesn't actually follow law and all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But like, it maintained the idea that America actually has laws that they care about. America doesn't give a shit about laws. It doesn't care whatsoever. The legal system is just an edifice. It's just an illusion, right? It's just the language that they use in order to enact their barbarity. They don't give a fuck, right? Their laws are just statements of what they're going to do. Yeah, we're going to torture people. Is it legal? Make it legal. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? Hey, Ruth. Maybe that's what was going on. My chat wasn't working for a bit. Guess I can't speak my mind. Yeah, they're too scared of you, Ruth. That's what it is. They're too scared of you. I've brought this up before. Anyone heard of the Gesera-Nessera Act, which will force all governments to clear all debts and enact a basic income worldwide? It's being brought up in chat a lot. Like, I mean, there's no way this actually happens. Yeah, this is one of these like old, I remember looking into this, right? This is one of these old bills that got like put forward that didn't really get much support and then it just got buried, right? Like, I'm sure that you could find a bill for all of this kind of stuff, but like, so? Like, our rulers are psychopaths. They're not going to do this. Like, it's nice that somebody drew this up, but it's like the equivalent of fan fiction, right? It's just like legal fan fiction. Wouldn't it be great if, like, that's not going to happen? And especially in America, like, let's say the midterms happen and suddenly the Democrats get 5 more seats, right? You're just going to end up with 5 more obstructionists, right? Like, the system is designed to protect corporate power and capital. That's what it's designed for. That's what it is doing. And I see this on the regular, man. People pretending like there actually is a conflict between the Republicans and the Democrats. There's no conflict. Those guys are allies. They work together. They're good friends. They're good friends. Like, and they understand. They understand the game. Like, they know how it works. Not if you cuss. I haven't heard the word cuss, dude, in like 10 years. Not if you cuss. That's a real like cowboy. Did you turn and spit after you said that? ASPA authorizes the president to use all means necessary and appropriate to bring about the release of any U.S. personnel being detained at the request of the International Criminal Court. Yeah, they don't care. Like, they don't care at all. Like, they don't believe in laws. This is why countries that have laws that they follow are considered authoritarian, right? That country passed legislation and then followed that legislation. Authoritarian, right? Like, we are chaos death knights. Like, if I was to create like a like fantasy book or a fantasy movie where there's like this cabal of billionaires who are like ghouls and vampires, literally, like ghouls, vampires, and demons, right? And they would enforce their will on the populace, and they would just present the populace with like little surrogates here and there. Are you kidding? I bet you the billionaire class, I bet you the psychopath class actually had a good laugh about Donald Trump. I bet when Donald Trump showed up, they actually had a real good laugh about that and had like a really good time about it. Like, these guys don't care if America falls into a civil war. Like, they don't care at all. And like, I don't know what it's going to take for the average citizen to put together that this is what's happening to them. That the people who are ruling us are as evil as any group has ever ruled. Is it literally going to have to be concentration camps in the middle of your cities? Are you literally going to need your stadiums converted into concentration camps like what we did throughout South America? Like, is that literally what's going to happen? Because that's what we've done in other places. Right? We've taken their stadiums, we've taken their big stuff, and we've turned them into fucking concentration camps. Like, is that going to happen here before we actually are willing to be like, oh, maybe something's gone wrong? Oh, I don't know. Oh. If that act resulted in a really great rate of return for capitalist shareholders, then by all means it will pass. Yeah. And like, guys, there is coming a time, like, and it's going to happen a lot sooner than you think. There is coming a time where this like democratic edifice that exists, they'll just do away with it. They'll just do away with it, and they'll just rule directly, right? That like the billionaire class will just appoint surrogates, right, to enact whatever legislation they want enacted, and that's what will happen. Like, that's coming. Like, and I don't see any way to stop it outside of like a mass popular revolt surrounding the halls of power. But we're not doing that. And it seems like we're disinterested. Like, really, seems like we're just disinterested as a people in doing that. And there are people within the protest conversation who are cowards. There's nothing else to call them. They're cowards. That They want to see change in their society. They want to move forward with it, but they're just so cowardly and gullible that they're not actually willing to do what must be done. That they're still going along with these like frauds, basically. Like I get told, I try to get people on the show sometimes, and I get told like, ooh, that's a real a conflict of branding. It's like, oh, so you're just a fucking loser liberal, right? Like, do you genuinely think this shit is going to happen? Like, do you genuinely think this shit is going to happen while we're being fucking totally abandoned by these liberals, right? Like, it's like real. I hate to use the terminology, but it's real wake up time. Like, it's real, like, wake up. Like, come on. Like, I just think that there are a lot of dopey people in the conversation. Like, and the dopey people mean well, but they're just dopes. Yeah, too many want change but are afraid to rock the boat. Like, how do you make change without rocking the boat? Like, so fucking stupid. It's a contradiction. right? Well, and you think that these psychopaths are just going to give up their power because they're nice? Like, yikes. And speaking of, right, the judge in Kyle Rittenhouse's trial says lawyers cannot call the two people he killed victims. Rittenhouse killed two people and wounded another with an AR-15 style weapon. The judge says victim is too loaded, but will let lawyers call them rioters, looters, or arsonists. Yeah, capitalizing off the revolution. Yeah, they would. Absolutely. They will absolutely attempt to co-opt the revolution. Absolutely they will. Don't fool yourself and think they'll do anything else. And they'll do it in an effort to try to pretend like they're your ally. Right? And my opinion is that the corporations that do that first are the first ones that need to go. Like, that's classic liberal strategy. I'm actually your friend. Yeah, I'm fighting for you. Yeah, I'm completely interested in helping you. Yeah, so people protesting police violence are branded rioters. That's expected. Well, and the people who kill them are you can't call them victims, right? I'm not going to be too surprised to see this guy get like a really light sentence. Like, there is no legal system in America. Like, the judge can basically just say, like, yeah, 2 years. Lightest sentence possible. Killed two people. When I was your age, I made $2.50 an hour and barely got by. Wow, that's worth $20.65 an hour now, and that's twice my wage. Like, spot of good news. We are now sub 300 cases daily here. First time I've seen this in months, at least, maybe in a year. So there's a spot of good news for you. Little decline. Don't worry, we'll pop back up after we reopen everything because we're a bunch of fucking morons. It's trite to say, but it really is true that Bernie ran on a platform you could describe as just the basic shit every other country has, and every single major institution in this country essentially called him an insane communist. Like, if they're going to do that, you might as well call yourself a communist, right? You might as well just get ahead of it. Like, that's what's so insane about the conversation going on in America. Like, the policies that people are asking for have been tested over 100 times. Like, we know what to do. Like, we know what to do. Oh yeah, this is my favorite. Woman 19 is facing life in prison for killing a man who raped her and sold her for sex, after judge rules she cannot use law that shields trafficking victims as a defense. Crystal Kaiser, 19, confessed to shooting 34-year-old Randy Voller in the head twice and burning his body at his home in Kenosha, Wisconsin in June 2019. I gotta tell you, I'm fine with that. Like, straight up. If this man raped her and sold her for sex, he should be shot in the head twice, burned, and buried in an unmarked grave and forgotten about. I'm completely fine with that. Like, and not only do I think that that's non-controversial, I think that if you're against that there might be something wrong in your mind. Like, there genuinely might be something wrong with you. Like, sorry that this young lady defended herself against her rapist and her pimp. Like, but again, America has no law. Like, there's no law there. It literally is just judges putting people in jail to continue the system of slavery. That's what the prison system, that's what the legal system is for in America. Like, they're seeing it, and it just, like, it's obviously not a justice system. It's not interested in that. Right? It's just interested in getting as many people into the prison system as they can so that they can get as many slaves as they can. For any reason, for any excuse. Yeah, should she have written a heartfelt letter to the guy or something? Yeah, the liberal way, right? If she was white and he wasn't, he would be in prison now. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely on the money, Ruth. Should I do this one? I've been kind of playing Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. I'm going to play it. This is my version of this song. This is going to be rough. But you guys seem to be fine with that, so... I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. When you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. And I hope you're having the time of your life. Think twice, that's my only advice. Come on now, who do you think you are? Ha ha ha, bless my soul. You really think you're in control? Well, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy, just like me. My heroes had the heart to lose their lives out on the limb. All I remember is thinking, I wanna be like them. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. It's no coincidence I've come, and I can die when I'm done. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe we're crazy. Probably. I gotta work on that one. I like that though. I was thinking about that just last night, right? Starting to write a song, and I thought to myself, this song that I'm writing sounds a lot like Gnarls Barkley's Crazy, so maybe I'll just steal that song and play it myself. Seems to work out. So here's a story that I thought would just be fun to riff on. Garneau's departure means Trudeau will have had 5 foreign affairs ministers in 6 years. That's a travesty. Like, do you need an indication whatsoever that the Liberals actually don't have foreign policy? Like, they don't. If you've got 5 foreign affairs minister in 6 years, that means it's just a rotational period, position. That they can just put whoever they want in there. And as long as the guy says, like, checks the box when they're handed the thing from whoever they're handing stuff from. Like, it's not actually, they're not actually attempting to do foreign relations whatsoever. Right? How do you build a relationship with any country if you're constantly just rotating your foreign affairs minister? How do you actually, like... And so it couldn't be more obvious that they're just taking cue cards from, like, CSIS. They're just taking cue cards from, like, the United States, right? The State Department. Like, why do you think, like, when the CIA sends CIA organizations to Canada spreading lies, the Trudeau government just goes like, oh yeah, okay. And they just kind of go along with it. Because they don't give a fuck. They don't have any foreign affairs. They don't have, like, any connection. And this just flows into, like, my larger complaint about what's going to happen to North America. Is that we are going to become increasingly isolationist. Yeah, swapping out paper dolls to keep from being accountable. Yeah, that's part of it. I also think it's just like, you know, get your buddies into positions of power, right? Like, get it on the resume, right? Oh, I was the foreign affairs minister, right? Like, that kind of dumb bullshit, that liberal nonsense, that corporate trash. And but like, as we move forward, right, people aren't going to want to do business with us. Like, we're insane. Like, we're going off the rails as a culture, right? And I include Canada with the United States. Like, sure, Canada has its own electoral body. Sure. Like, but we are a vassal of the United States for sure. Like, for sure. And no matter how hard we try to separate ourselves from the United States, because we share that border with them, we're always going to be tied in. Like, we're always going to be tied in. And the reality is that, like, with the exception of the initial invasion into Iraq, we work with the United States military very closely. The United States military has released multiple documents saying that Canada has been instrumental for the empire, right? We walk lockstep with the United States. We don't fight them on this stuff. We're not questioning. We're not saying, like, no, right? We said no once. That was Chrétien when we went into Iraq. Since then, it's just been like, yes, sir. And people in this country still think we have peacekeepers. Like, it's a joke. It's a total fucking joke. And as the world begins to see us more and more and more, as the world begins to see us more and more as just the psychopaths that we actually are, right? And as the West continues to collapse into, like, our infrastructure is crumbling, our social services are crumbling and constantly under assault, like, people are just going to abandon us. They're not going to trade with us. They're not going to work with us. Because why would you ever want to work with a psychopath nation? Like, why would you ever want to open the door to this vampire and let them in? Right? Like, no. Like, no. And, like, steadily more and more, America and Canada don't really have much to offer. Right? Like, the entire rest of the world is connecting itself, just as Isaac is saying, how you doing, Isaac, is connecting itself to a massive trade network, right? And countries that we have been blowing up for 20 years are getting connected to that trade network. And they're going to have massive amount of resources. Like, they're not going to need Canada. They're not going to need the United States. What? They need our 300 million people? Let's say 400 million people, right? What, they need our 400 million people? There's literally the entire rest of the world that they can connect to and trade with, right? Like, literally 6, 7, 8 billion people that they can get connected in and trade and increase the quality of life and work with and all of this. while the United States goes around and just threatens everybody with fucking bombardment. Like they did to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. Like they're threatening to do to China currently. Right? Like, we're just going to get completely isolated. And it's going to and then on top of that, not only is the country going to be completely isolated, the wealth of the nation is literally just going to abandon the nation. They're just going to take the money that they have extracted, right? And they're just going to leave. And how do I know? Because they've been threatening to do that for decades. They've been threatening to do that for decades. Xi Jinping is purging society of greed, corruption, and moral failing, and have asked top billionaires to donate billions to a fund to tackle poverty. Not reported in news here. Of course not. Of course not. The West doesn't like left power or the rule of law being applied as intended. A dictatorship of the proletariat is still a dictator. They need democracy, not a voice for the people. Yeah. Hello, I'm back. Hey, Vince. How's everyone doing? What are we talking about? Did you cover Trudeau confirming he'll run? Oh, I didn't realize that he had made that claim. It's telling that he feels he needs to say that. Like it is. It's telling that he feels he needs to say that out loud. Our Queen has disassociated Canada from the East via Brexit. Who gives a fuck about our Queen? Like, fuck her. Get her off the money. Like, fuck that whole thing. Like, the only thing that's beneficial about maintaining this sort of edifice of the Queen is that it does maintain the idea of the Commonwealth. Not that there's anything, like, truly beneficial about maintaining this Commonwealth any longer. He confirmed that in a press conference today. It's on CTV YouTube channel. So I guess Freeland is not running. Maybe he'll change his mind later. I mean, for all it matters, dude. Like, really. And I mean this. Like, Justin Trudeau just takes cue cards and reads them. Like, he doesn't have ideas or thoughts. Like, he doesn't really know what's going on. Like, I think that's the thing to understand about Justin Trudeau. He doesn't really understand what's going on. Like, he just gets cue cards and stands in front of mics and reads what he's supposed to read. That's his role in all of this. Someone like Freeland has way more power and obviously has way more ideas of what's actually going on than he does, right? Like, Freeland is the one that's actually going places and talking to people and actually making deals and doing stuff and, arming and training Nazis and things like this, right? Freeland's the one that's actually doing stuff. Like, Trudeau doesn't do stuff. He doesn't do anything, right? Like, when you read the news about Trudeau's organization, it's rarely the case that Justin Trudeau is actually caught up in anything, because he doesn't offer anything or say anything or do anything or have ideas, right? Like, he literally takes cue cards from business and reads them. That's his job. And yeah, he's addicted to his own power juice. It's nice to be the prime minister. I genuinely feel like someone like Trudeau, I don't know how he couldn't think this way. Like, when he gets into his old age, after he's out of office and all this kind of stuff, like, he's got to look back on that time and just be like, wait, why didn't I use that power for anything? Why didn't I actually use the power of prime minister to actually do anything? Why did I waste my entire prime ministership? Like, Trudeau's prime ministership is like one of the most lame duck prime ministerships in the history of the nation. Without a doubt. Like, without a doubt. Every prime minister enacts some kind of policy that has wide-ranging implications for generations. Right? We call it their legacy. Even Stephen Harper has a legacy, like a positive legacy that you can point to and say that's positive, right? What's Trudeau's legacy? Weed legalization? Like, yikes. Big yikes. Especially, like, consider his father, right? Pierre Elliott Trudeau. What's Pierre Elliott Trudeau's legacy? Oh, the fucking Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Oh, fuck. Right? Like, you can critique Trudeau Senior all you like, but it's his signature on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's his party all over the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? Yeah, at least Harper put in a child tax benefit, right? Like that's a fundamental change. That's something that you cannot take away from the Harper administration. That they put in a child care benefit to eliminate child poverty, right? Using a basic income scheme model that works. What's Trudeau done? No, sorry, Vince. We're just having trouble with the chat for whatever reason. For whatever reason, the chat's been disconnecting and reconnecting and like doing all kinds of stuff. So I think it's just a YouTube thing at this stage. And like, it's going to be very difficult for me to believe that Justin Trudeau, as he gets into his like 70s, isn't going to just look back and be like, man, I didn't really do anything. Imagine if he did basic income or pharmacare before he left. Yeah, that's not going to happen, dude. Like, that's not going to happen. These liberals are really, like, why wouldn't you take the CERB, right? Like, if you were genuinely interested in the populace, if you actually cared about the populace, right? Why wouldn't you take the CERB and just continue running that into a basic income? Right? Like, it's right there already. You know it works. You know it's a policy that works. And you know it works because you're the one that enacted it. Right? And also, every other time we've done a basic income scheme, it's been wildly popular and successful. Like, it just seems to me that the Trudeau liberal, like, Trudeau does not, I don't think he's actually smart enough to understand the concept of legacy. Like, maybe that's the best way I can put it. That it's not that he is like, legacy, who cares about the future, Canada, whatever. I genuinely think that he is not smart enough to understand that concept. That he is not smart enough to understand that as time moves forward, the decisions and his inaction will have consequences. Like, I straight up don't think he's smart enough to recognize this. I don't expect it, but his father would be proud. See, but I don't know about that. Like, his father wielded power, right? Like, his father took the power of his station and used it. Like, that, like, the just watch me statement, right? Like, that comes from Pierre Elliott Trudeau. You can't do that. Just watch me, right? He wielded power and did so effectively, right? His son doesn't wield power. His son has power, certainly. The Prime Minister's office is an incredibly powerful position in Canada. It's incredibly powerful. It's more powerful than the American presidency. Like, it's an incredibly powerful position. And Trudeau's just not using it. Like, do stuff. Like, do things. Like Del Duca says, he'll do another pilot, big deal. Yeah. I mean, we have all the evidence. Like, we have all the evidence. The evidence is so damning that they are creating fraudulent evidence in order to try to pretend as though it doesn't work. Right? Like, you're starting to see, like, tests coming out of the British Columbia universities, and they're literally, like, paid for by the fossil fuel industry. Like, Trudeau spends billions of our tax money in a failed attempt to get a UN seat. Yeah, like, it's all just wanking, right? Well, and, like, that UN seat, like, America wants to take the UN over. Like, they want the UN to be the surrogate of the United States. They thought that they would be able to get that done with their veto power. But the reality is that the UN is its own separate entity and constantly is releasing documents that makes the United States look like the psychopath nation that they actually are. because the UN actually does do things for the benefit of the rest of the planet, right? And like, sure, there are like they can't declare human rights, they can't declare food a human right because America vetoes it, right? They can't decry the genocide in Israel because America vetoes it, right? Like, so there are things they can't do, but they can send people to like Venezuela, for example, and be like, hey, what's going on in Venezuela? Oh, the US sanctions. Do you think they're nervous about MMT and crypto? Like, you mean the liberals? I don't think the liberals give a shit about anything, dude. I think that they are neoliberals who are religious acolytes who don't care if they abandon the populace whatsoever. And, like, nobody's talking about MMT. And, like, crypto is exclusively so billionaires can trade sex slaves with one another. That's the purpose of crypto. So I don't know why they would care about that either. Like, their owners are fine with crypto. Like, they're not going to use economics. Like, they don't care about economics. They don't give a shit about facts or evidence or any of that kind of stuff. Like, they care about upholding the power structure with their death cult ideology. That's what they care about. I would not put anything past Del Duca. He has that corrupt car salesman vibe. Yeah. I mean, that's why he was instrumental in selling Hydro One, right? Like, the privatization of the hydro system has been a disaster here in Ontario. Like, and it one that we may not recover from. Bumble Guppy, my God, the list of UN declarations that the U.S. is the sole dissenter is endless. It's so obvious, yeah. And so, of course, the U.S. wants to take it over, right? And it was a good moment when the UN said no to Canada. Because Canada sells weapons to Saudi Arabia that's committing a genocide in Yemen. Like, it's very, very straightforward. No, guys, these next 10 years are going to be ridiculous. Like, you like, regardless as to what happens. Like, even if we break left and suddenly there's like a big revolutionary energy and suddenly everybody's like, that's going to be ridiculous. But if we break right and suddenly it's like a big fascist situation and people are getting rounded up and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be ridiculous too. Right? Like, these next 10 years are going to be fucking ridiculous. So ridiculous that any of these boomers that are walking around saying, Jeff got a job or any of that kind of shit, we should just put in an old folks home and forget about them. Like, tell them that the election date is 2 days after. Like, that kind of shit. Like, just get them out of the conversation. Like, and it's going to be so absurd that there is going to be a kind of hysteria that the populace is going to, no matter what, the populace is going to fall into a state of general hysteria. India Walton. Oh yeah. Like, not that there's actually an electoral system in America. Like, I don't believe any of this. I gotta tell you, like, I don't buy into any of this shit. Like, they can just like write a number down and put it up. Like, who cares? There's no. And like, no, man, you should be sad for the people of America. Like, but like, again, like, this is it doesn't, like, there is no such thing as American politics. Like, I just don't know what to tell you. Like, that this idea that India Walton was going to swell up and become a socialist mayor of so on and so, like, that, none of that is real. Like, none of that is real. This is wasted energy. It's completely wasted energy. There's no such thing as an American political system. That the person they want in the position of power is the person who gets into the position of power. That's how it works. Like, this was proven to me when they literally stole the election from Bernie Sanders. Like, there's no politics. Like, everything is just an expression of the ego of the powerful. That's it. Like, if it is to be interpreted politically at all, it is the will of, 1,000 wealthy people, and that's it. Exclusively, right? To talk about it in any other terms is to delve into a form of delusion. Like, India Walton was never going to win this election. It was never going to happen. Ever. Why? Because rich, powerful people don't want to deal with someone like her. Right? And the idea that, like, oh, well, the people will come out in an upswell and all, and they'll line up and all, like, none of that matters. Like, none of that fucking matters. If voting actually changed the outcome, they wouldn't let it happen. You understand? If voting actually changed the outcome, they'd make it illegal. Like, all of this, like, voter registration stuff and all of this not letting black people vote and all this kind of stuff, that's, again, just an expression of the ego of the powerful. Because they're fucking racists. Right? Like, it doesn't actually matter if these people vote. Like, the outcome doesn't actually matter. Like, and even if she got in, let's say the magical, wondrous thing happened and people, and the narrative of, like, oh, I actually voted and my vote actually got counted and it actually ended up being India Walton and she actually gets in. No one's going to work with her. No one's going to cooperate with her. Like, no one's going to do what she says. There's no laws. What are you talking about? Who's going to enforce any of that? No one's going to work with her. Right? And why are they not going to work with her? Because they'd rather work for the billionaire. Why? Because he's a fucking billionaire. Like the system has been so overwhelmed by capital. The system has been so overwhelmed by billionaires that the idea that they will respond to electoralism is charming. It's charming to believe that someone will get in and then they'll actually be listened to. Like, it's a very charming view. People will not work with these people. They will just turn and look at the billionaires and say, billionaire, what do you want? And the billionaire will say, this is what I want. And they'll just do that because it's what the billionaire wants. And if somebody like India wastes her time and huffs and puffs and does all this kind of stuff, they'll just throw lawyers at her. Like, I can't imagine a more ineffective thing to be doing than to spend all your energy trying to get elected as a mayor of a place. Like, it's not going to matter. You're dealing with psychopathic billionaires, right? You're dealing with psychopathic billionaires. You're not going to get in, and even if you do, they're not going to listen to you or do anything you have to say. And nobody is. The only thing that can be done in American politics, such that it exists, is to surround the halls of power. That's the only thing. Literally anything else is a complete and total waste of time. Literally anything else. Like, and it's always for exactly the same reason. There are billionaires. They can simply say no, and they will. The people of the U.S. will double down on what the force themselves to believe the system is while continuing to create the very world that torments them. Yeah, always has been. Well, and it's because the American system of capital and even their political system is constantly at war. That this is how Americans think intrinsically. They're constantly at war with themselves, with their neighbors, with the people around them. They're constantly at war. That there is, at the most basic level, America and ostensibly Canada are in a spiritual crisis, an existential crisis, if you prefer the secular terms. That that they view their existence as a constant struggle for resources, that they view their existence as a constant fight with one another, constantly. Every aspect of American life is specifically designed to be a conflict. If you are a worker, you are in conflict with your boss, you are in conflict with your landlord, right? If you vote, you are voting Republican, Democrat. You're not voting for a policy. You're not voting for an idea. You are voting for a teammate who fights against another team, right? Sports, right? One of the most popular pastimes in America is sports. Constant conflict. Constant conflict. There's no conception in American life at the most basic levels of collaboration and cooperation. It simply doesn't exist. Even the education system is designed to instill in your children the idea of competition, that you are constantly going to be fighting, that you are constantly going to be struggling, not only against the system, but against your neighbors and your peers. Like, you can't actually build a society like this. It doesn't actually work. And we're seeing it not actually work. Because fundamentally, eventually, given the rules of capital, a small group of billionaires take the entire system over, which is exactly what they've done. Like, and India Walton wasn't going to do anything about that. Like, that's why I didn't really pay much attention to her, because it was like, what a pointless waste of energy. India Walton would have been better off taking those 36% of people and surrounding the halls of power. Like, she would have been better off doing that. Like, this is a total waste of time. Total waste of time. Maybe back in the 60s or 70s it could have mattered, right? Maybe back in like the 50s even. Not now. Not anymore. Like, that's over. Like, the idea that electoral politics is gonna result in anything in America, it's a joke. And if it began to, like, if people began to take over the electoral system in big and significant ways, they just do away with it. And what are you going to do about it? You're gonna put a ballot in the box and say, I don't want that to happen. Like, that's how childish this conversation has become, right? People genuinely believe that psychopaths with bombs and nukes who are literally willing to, like, cover the country of Laos with 300 million bombs, right? Who are literally willing to go into South America and work with fascists to foment coups and all of this, will be prevented from doing that at home because I put a thing in a box. What? Like, what the fuck? So, India Walton should stop participating in this nonsense and should start doing the actual work of organizing people and surrounding the halls of power. Because the electoral system has no credibility in America on any level. There's not one level where it's got any credibility whatsoever. There is no legal system. It's a psychopath nation. It's gone completely psychopathic. It's very obvious that that is the case. It's very obvious that that is the case. And as its power diminishes and declines, it will turn its psychopathic gaze against its own citizens, which it's already begun. Like, so, like, I hate to be a Debbie Downer about this, but I don't view these stories of like, wow, there's a socialist punching and all that kind of stuff. I don't look at that as like a message of hope. I see people wasting their fucking time and buying into a system that's been long dead for a long, long fucking time. Long fucking time. Right? And I'm starting to see the same thing in Canadian politics as well. Like, we just abandoned 800,000 people against the will of the populace. 59% of people did not want that to happen. Happened anyway. Right? Like,
So we're not responding to what the people are asking for. We're not responding to the needs of the people. I'm going to put it in a box, though. Check mark. Yeah, that'll do it. Like, it's over. It's done. It's finished. Stop pretending. Stop believing. Stop putting your hope there. Because all that's going to happen is when it's crushed, because it will be crushed, because that's how the system is designed, you're going to fall into disillusionment. Right? And then you're going to waste a whole bunch of other time. Right? You're going to waste a whole bunch of time being disillusioned. Like what happened to us after Obama. Right? Everybody just fucked around, wasted a whole fucking bunch of time, and then we ended up with goddamn Donald Trump. Right? Like, it's time to get over it. It's time to get to a place where we recognize that the system has been corrupted. There's been a coup. We are not ruled by our democratic leaders. We are ruled by psychopathic billionaires who give those people cue cards to read. That's what's happening. The only solution to this is to surround the halls of power. It's not to have little marches and wave little flags because they'll just watch those marches go on by and then betray us anyway. It's to surround and occupy the halls of power. Period. Full stop. There is no other solution. It doesn't exist. Everything else is a complete, total farce, a waste of time, a way for corporate power to distract us and to take our energy and funnel it into graveyards, which is what they've done to India Walton. Like, false hope is the worst hope. And honestly, we don't have time for this shit anymore. We just don't have time for this shit anymore. We don't have time to put up with getting an India Walton in and then having her get defeated because that's exactly what's going to happen. And then everybody being like, well, but better luck next time. Let's wait another 4 years and try again. Are you kidding me? The town of Lytton burnt down last year. Right? Is it going to take... Are we going to have to watch Kamloops burn down? Is that what's going to have to happen? Is Kamloops going to have to burn down before we realize that what we need to be doing is surrounding the halls of power and getting these psychopaths out of office and restructuring our system so that these outcomes cannot happen ever again? Is that what it's going to have to be? I think so. Like, I do. I think we're going to lose Kamloops. That the city of Kamloops is going to burn down and be evacuated before all is said and done. And maybe then 2% of the populace will actually come out into the streets. Yeah, just follow the news when Amazon announces a new facility they want to build and you see how the cities in America are governed. Exactly. They're just there to facilitate corporate power. That's all they're there for. And Americans don't vote for their team, they vote against the other team. Yeah, like, I mean, which is the worst possible way to organize a society. Like, I can't think of a worse way of doing it. Like, you're literally always at war with other people in your society. You're constantly fighting, right? And you're never voting for a policy or an idea. There's never anyone coming into the populace and genuinely asking, oh, hey, what policy would you like to see us enact? Right? What should we focus on? The only reason they ask us that question is so that they can gaslight us. That's the only reason they poll us about that. So that they can gaslight us about it and pander to us and pretend like they care. That's it. They're not interested in enacting any of this legislation. They genuinely will watch this place burn down. They will watch it burn down. Right? And I am of the belief that the reason why the billionaire class is going to watch this place burn down is because they are so narcissistic and psychopathic that they want to destroy the system that's responsible for their own death. That they refuse to humble themselves and acknowledge that they are part of a larger system that involves getting old and dying and humbling themselves to that system, that their psychopathic narcissistic behavior is propelling them towards destroying the planet itself. And they do not give a shit even about their own children. Ballot box. Check mark, vote. That'll stop it. That's how we stop it, right, guys? Yeah, let's check a box. India Walton, she'll actually stop this kind of high-level psychopathic narcissism. Absolutely. Like, I'm done with it. I'm so fucking done with it. Obama was a disaster. Yeah, who gave billions to Wall Street and the military complex. He gave us Trump. And wasted 8 years. 12 if you include Trump. Right? Like, and now, honestly, 16 with Biden. Like, Biden's worthless. And then we're going to get another 4 years of Trump. So we got 20 years just completely wasted. Thanks, Obama. Right? Like, we have to take to the streets. There is no other option. There's no other option. And if you think there is another option, you are fooling yourself. We've seen all of these attempts. We've seen it. We know that the populace, like, the very fact that there is not universal health care in the United States should tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, bad news. They're all just the next term of Reagan. Yeah. Well, I mean, neoliberalism is what is at the core of this. It's a religious ideology that was designed to look like an economic system. They bribed hacks like Milton Friedman into pretending like it was an economic system when it's completely fraudulent. I remember when I was in university, some grad student went through the mathematics that they used in order to justify the system of trickle-down economics or supply-side economics, and he found glaring flaws in the mathematics. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not an economic system. It doesn't function. But the Obama memes, aren't they worth sacrificing the planet for? Yeah, that's right. Let's just okay Obama or like thanks Obama our way to the grave. That'll be great. That'll be super great. Hope you're okay, Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell, if you guys don't know, committed suicide maybe a year ago now. I miss him a lot. He managed to tap into something here with this song. In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises no one knows, hides the face, lies the snake, the sun in my disgrace. Boiling heat, summer stench, 'neath the black the sky looks dead. Call my name through the cream and I'll hear you scream again. Black old sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black old sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Won't you come? Stuttering, cold and damp, steal the warm wind, tired friend. Times are gone.
sometimes far too long for snakes in my shoes. A walking sleep in my youth I pray to keep heaven sent hell away. No one sings like you anymore. Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come? Far right party, mass murderer, red or blue, elephant or donkey. Yeah. And they all work for the same people. The idea that Biden was going to be different, by what evidence? By what litmus? He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. Everybody that was saying oh, we'll push him to the left when he gets into office. What a fucking joke. What a fucking total joke. Oh yeah, I really like this one actually. Probably spent too long modifying this. We're all familiar with this meme, I'm sure. Equality, equity, capitalism. On crates to the moon. Just killing the black guy, killing the kid. That's capitalism, baby. That's how it works. That's the system. I absolutely love these guys that are just they'll give you a picture of capitalism and be like, that's communism. Like they're trying to do to Squid Game. Fucking unbelievable. Oh yeah, this is a great one. How to be an honest liberal. Instead of China is authoritarian, say, I have a paper-thin understanding of politics. Instead of China is committing a genocide, say, I trust far-right conspiracy theories. Instead of hate China, not the people, say, I have a white savior complex. Instead of there's no free speech in China, say, I have never talked to a Chinese person. Instead of saying, US is bad, but China is worse, say, I acknowledge my government is horribly corrupt, but I still believe everything they tell me about China. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. Ugh. Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well,
Well, your faith was strong, you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew ya. She tied you to her kitchen chair, she broke your throne, she cut your hair, and from her lips she drew a hallelujah. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Well, you say I took the name in vain, and I don't even know the name, and if I did, well, really, what's it to ya? There's a blaze of light in every word, it doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken. Hallelujah. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Well, I tried my best, it wasn't enough, I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch, I told the truth, I didn't come to fool ya. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I think the reason why people don't play that verse is because they don't really understand it. They don't really... Well, and they also know that it sort of picks a fight, doesn't it? Sort of picks a fight. Somewhat down to pick a fight, you know? It's not even picking a fight, it's just fighting back. That's what's so annoying about this whole conversation. Anybody who fights back is painted as being the violent one or painted as being somehow breaking with it. And it's like literally we're fighting back. Like, how dare we fight back? It's exactly how I always felt about our invasion of the Middle East. that there was constantly this like, oh, look what the Muslims are doing, and Muslims are so bad, and all this. Oh, look at them, and all this. And I literally look at these people, and I'm just like, yeah, how dare they fight back, right? How dare they defend themselves? You know, they should just like bend over and just like they should just lie down and just let us go in there with our bombs and our guns and just shoot the shit out of everything and steal all their resources. How dare they, right? How dare they fight back? I don't really know what to think anymore, you know? Like, am I attempting to build a resistance? Am I attempting to put together something that is actually going to stand up against these power structures and perhaps overwhelm them? Or am I just watching the decline? Am I just commenting on the decline and stomping my feet in the face of it? Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. And I want us to have hope. I want us to believe that we can pull this thing up. I want us to believe that we can do that. But we're very far behind. We're very far behind. What's that Twilight phrase? It's the night is always darkest before the dawn. Perhaps that's what we're all going to experience as a people. Perhaps we'll experience a period of vast darkness before the dawn breaks over us. I generally prefer that we don't. I generally prefer that we don't. That we just get to the part where we're making everything better. Wouldn't that be nice? We just got to the point where everything was getting better. We didn't need to dive into the fascism. We didn't need to have the Civil War. We didn't need to do any of that. I think that'd be really good. Just trying to find a tune here. No. There it is.
asked her kindly, please put down the gun. You don't need to hurt anyone, she said. The world's too hot, the people are too cold. I'm not gonna bother getting old. My work turns to bombs, my life's a lie. No one will notice if another girl dies, and doesn't need to be this way. 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 Christ collapses in an olive grove, prays with blood to his God above. Please, my Father, find another way. Please don't take my life away. The humans know not what they do, and must I die before they'll see the truth? And it doesn't need to be this way. 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 The sun burns us from the earth. It cares less than God what you're worth. Cling to delusions while your children die. We won't answer when you cry. God forgive us for what we've done, but we'll curse you when you're gone. And it doesn't need to be this way. 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 Here's a song I don't play very often. It's got a real conservative country vibe. And I think that's who I wrote it for. I have some concerns, you will see. I hope you take them seriously. You see, I get left behind while you go off and die. I have some concerns, you see. I work 5 blocks down the street from Colleen. She sits all day, hat out on the stew. Why is she there, hoping somebody will care, while the grocery store's throwing out soup? I have some concerns, you see. We have to face them eventually. Like, why do I die if I don't comply? I have some concerns, you see. Why is there even a means test to see if we get to eat? Don't you think it's odd that you gotta get a job, working hard for men you'll never meet? I have some concerns, you see. They mean an awful lot to me. Life doesn't need to be this hard. Stop putting capital in charge. I have some concerns, you see. It's got quite strange that you're still pretending that climate change won't burn out the earth. Capital destroys us all. It really has to fall. The burning sun won't care how much you're worth. I have some concerns, you see. I hope you're listening to me. If we can't see eye to eye, can you hurry up and die? I have some concerns, you see. If we can't see eye to eye, could you hurry up and die? I have some concerns, you see. I've always played this one like with a more punk vibe. I'm going to try something different with this one today. Johnny comes home with gin on his breath and a club in his hand. Jenny braces for another long night. She's gonna learn her place, her body's in demand. And the children cry, just stop. Yeah, the children cry, just stop. Ahmed gathers his kids around, running underground while fire falls from the sky. Black boots plunder their inheritance, spread democracy or you better die. And the children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. Jackie watches her town burns down. The ruthless sun won't even let her cry. There's no mercy for men like us. Our nation turns to dust, and we all know why. And the children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. And the children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. I rather like that. I rather like that. Sorry this has gotten kind of morose. Sorry about that, guys. It's just the nature of the beast, I suppose. I just suddenly feel quite serious and quite I think the word is morose, rather. Sometimes I think it's nice to live in that space, you know? To just admit to yourself that that's what you're like and that's what things are, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. You know? You shouldn't feel bad about it. And I know it can make people uncomfortable. But maybe that's okay. Have you noticed how stupid this goddamn place is? A fiction we write as we go. Smile real big, earn food and a home, so we can all put on a show. Hey, how are you? But I don't really care. A coffee, 2 milk, and a scone. Then ask the bank if that's okay with them. Then goodbye, now leave me alone. This isn't life. This isn't life. A fantasy made just to pass the day. This isn't life. Billions of years since the Big Bang have passed just to get us here. The earth threw us up and we don't know why. Don't worry, just drink a beer. This isn't life. This isn't life. A fantasy made just to pass the days. This isn't life. I'm too tired to think. I'll just have a drink to wake up and do it again. What happened? And then I will ask, what was the point? What happened just then when I end? This isn't life. This isn't life. A fantasy made just to pass the days. This isn't life. Follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Don't actually live in reality. Follow your dreams. Money's not real, but we slave away to prove to the bank we should eat. Pollute the air, going to and fro on gardens we paved into streets. This isn't life. This isn't life. A fantasy made just to pass the days. This isn't life. This isn't life. This isn't life. A fantasy made just to pass the days. This isn't life. I think with that, I'll say farewell. always remember, you are a divine being, standing in divine energy. I fear that we've forgotten. Good luck. We're going to need it.